to address the issue, I guess we need to discuss how substantial is substantial. I mean, it's a big area, big variance here. And in my recollection, we've never granted a variance over 100%. Ever, as far as that stuff goes. So, what are your thoughts on the size, guys? Who wants to start?
Well, I don't see an issue with the size.
Say again?
I don't see an issue with the size outside of the fact that if the DOT comes back and the curb cuts are going to need to be such that it's going to infringe on the size anyway, and that's so. I guess we need to see what they want, what they require.
What DOT will require.
Yeah.
I mean, I can conceivably see a situation where they come in and say, as you pointed out before, this farm stand needs to be a smaller building to meet the requirements that we have. In which case the variance would change. Maybe substantially there on that end. What do you feel, Rob?
Again, I think it's kind of putting the horse, before the horse. I really would like to.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
You say one more time.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Excuse me,
Okay, let's get it moved ahead.
You're talking 3,000 foot variance. The property was 1,668 feet to begin with, the buildings. So you're going to have to eliminate all the buildings and bring this 3,000 feet into compliance. Is that what you're saying?
That's not what I'm saying.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that before we move ahead on these, I do not feel comfortable moving ahead on them until we hear from the DOT. That's all I'm saying.
Well, 3,000 feet, where does that come from?
Where's that figure coming from?
Your
calculation.
Your guy calculated.
That's the difference between what the farm stand allowed and the size of the building you have is 3,000.
The farm stand has an allowable area of 2,686.9 square feet. You're not supposed to use up under the code more than that square footage. The square footage you're proposing to use is 5,773.04 square feet. So when you subtract the two, it comes out to 3,086.14. That's the variance you're requesting. That's where you get the 3,000.
Mr. Malinsky, it's been this way for 10 years.
Well, you asked where the 3,000 feet came from. That's the variance that you're requesting. So, what do you want to vote on continuing, or how do you want to go? What are your feelings on this? I know what you feel. You said it a couple times.
I think we should put it. I think we should put it to vote whether we're going to wait. You follow the county's recommendations and wait to hear from DOT, or to move ahead in some fashion before that.
It's not the first time they've done mistakes. But they do this as a recommendation, and then they come back a year later and say, oh, well, we should talk these people out. They do the same thing to us. 20 years, they beat us up on any kind of access on 28. Then they came 2 years ago to the meeting and said, well, we got to push these bed and breakfasts and get these people back in business. Same thing here, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but that county recommendation that I've heard it a million times before with other applicants. It sounds like a generic response to any project that comes in front of the county planning board. So I think you should take it with a grain of salt. The other objection I have is with putting curb cuts in that location. There's been other curb cuts down in Shandaken, which don't work. It's very hard to get in and out of these properties unless you have a large parking lot in front of the building, which they don't. They've had parking for, I'm guessing, 15 to 20 cars. If you had a 50, 80 car parking lot, you can have the ingress and egress, but those curbs cause problems. People drive over them all the time. The cut that happened by Boyceville Inn and Bread alone is responsible for a few deaths. I think the way he has it now is actually a good setup. The ditches were filled in, the cars could pull further off 28 as well as get in there much easier. I think it's actually a better traffic plan than putting in 2 curb cuts where there's one in, one out. It doesn't, if you put in the curb cuts and those, you know, barriers for people to get off the road in case there's an emergency, I think you're going to cause more problems than you solve. I think leaving it the way it is actually the best plan for the traffic that comes in and out of there. Thank you.
Thanks, Becky.
All right, well, I'll make a motion. No, I'll make a motion that we keep open the public hearing and that we do not proceed until we hear from the state DOT, and then make adjustments to these variance requests, and then we'll have something substantial to work from. You know, we'll actually get an independent expert opinion on this. I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Well, should we do a roll call?
Do your roll call.
Tom McKee?
I vote yes.
Ralph Reese?
Yes.
Keith Johnson?
No.
Gary Coleman?
No.
So that motion fails. Is there another motion that somebody wants to make?
I think we should accept the application contingent on the site plan review. Let the experts come in. If they don't agree with it, I think the county put us in a very difficult situation. And I realize that variances aren't contingent variances are not popular.
So your motion is to grant all the variances subject to DOT approval and site and planning board approval?
Yes.
Essentially. So that can help move it along for you guys. Is there somebody willing to second that motion?
I second.
Tom McKee?
I would have to vote no on that. We have too many things that we haven't even gone through all of the discussion on the variances, so I can't see how we can just grant it.
Ralph Reese?
No.
Keith Johnson?
Yes.
Gary Coleman?
Yes.
So that's denied. So this is my suggestion, because this has to be moved forward. You can't continue in a stalemate situation. I would recommend that you move to close the public hearing and that you're under a 62-day deadline to come to a resolution for this. And then that'll give whoever of the two differentiating viewpoints or whatever, that'll give everybody the time to, and the applicant, if the applicant so chooses, to get whatever additional information before you guys, so you hopefully can reach a consensus on the decision. Does that make sense? Or?
Yes.
The other, if I may, the other alternative would be to wait for the fifth member to arrive and yes, to vote next meeting.
Well, we can, the fifth member wasn't here for the deliberation this evening. So we have to, we can keep the hearing open, wait for the fifth member, who I don't know, I don't know will come or may or may not come, and go through this again. So I don't know if that.
Or he could watch the tape and they.
I wouldn't feel legally comfortable with that. I would say, let's.
We would have 65 days to make a decision.
62 days.
62 days, but now that would have to be done at
at a board meeting with a majority, and depending on what the decision is, you may need, and where everything stands, you may need a majority plus one, a supermajority to override the report. I think the prudent way, I would hope, would be for somebody on the applicant's end to reach out to the DOT to get this resolved, to get the information back before you meet again. And so all this can be brought to a conclusion, one way or the other. Because you're at a stalemate otherwise. And a stalemate is going to even with 3 persons voting in favor on one of these resolutions, it's going to require an override. You're not going to have enough votes. So, you hear what I'm saying? So, I would suggest that you close the public hearing and everybody work together to see if you get the information you need to come to a conclusion here.
Is it appropriate? I would like to ask, how fast do you think you might be able to get a response from these guys to get some kind of opinion before us?
The first thing I'm going to say is I disagree, as Larry and I have discussed before, and again, I have all the respect in the world for him. I disagree with his conclusion about a requirement that there be a supermajority in this instance. I maintain, as I did before, that if you pass this on to the planning board, all your discussions, as you were discussing this, I'm saying to myself, they're making an argument for what I said before. This belongs before the planning board. So if I may, I disagree, and I believe that you would be within your rights to pass this on to the planning board so that they can do the site plan review process. We are not prepared at this point to tell you when we're going to get this resolved with the DOT. First of all, because I don't know that we need to, and second of all, because I think there are going to be real practical difficulties with coming to some conclusion with the DOT within the time limits that we've got. I can't say to you that we have a timetable for that, and I also reserve my rights to object to the determination that you've made that there must be a supermajority in order to pass this to the planning board.
Well, I point out that we didn't even have a majority, let alone a supermajority.
Here open, you think the time constraints are too tight to get it done, and then continue?
At your pleasure. I'm just trying to person here and get that person involved in the discussion, bring that person up to speed, and so you could reach a determination. The applicant's position is it doesn't want to give us any more information, so be it. Chips will fall where they may, and that'll be it.
Okay. So let's have, I guess we'll have a motion to keep the public hearing open, and then,
I don't know, we've been advised to close the public hearing.
Well, I said I'm trying to give you practical solutions to bring this to a conclusion. One of those was to close the public hearing. Then you're under a deadline to get this resolved.